Chicago Bears head coach Ben Johnson calls out one of the major issues facing the team on the offensive side of the ball. We're talking about why that actually is a problem for the Chicago Bears and what Ben Johnson wants to do to get it together. We're also going to talk about a big name that the Chicago Bears are rumored to go after, and that's Dexter Lawrence. Does that actually make sense for the Chicago Bears? We'll talk about all that, plus a stadium update and more right after this. What's going on, Bears fans? Welcome to another episode of Chicago Bears Central, your number one spot for everything Chicago Bears related. I'm the host, Derek Hayes, but more importantly, you guys can follow the channel at Chi Bears Central on every social media platform we happen to be on. With that said, let's go ahead and get to this content for today, y'all. Ben Johnson calls out one of the biggest issues with the Chicago Bears offense, namely the slow starts against elite teams and how it created a dangerous trend for the Chicago Bears. And this is something that we've all talked about, right? A lot of the people that don't believe in the Chicago Bears record, the 11-6 record that they had last year is going to be able to be something that can be maintained. Sometimes people bring up the loss of starters and how long is it going to take for those new starters to be, kind of ingrained into the offense, get that chemistry down. But then the other thing is that people look at the comeback nature of the Chicago Bears last year, the cardiac nature of that Chicago Bears team, even what earned Caleb Williams the Iceman moniker, and they bring it up, rightfully so, as a thing that's a little bit of concern. Seems like Ben Johnson also agrees with you guys saying this. In terms of when we need to be our best in the fourth quarter, that has to stay the same. Those guys came through. They had a belief and it showed up. They played really well in the fourth quarter. Now I look back, I'm taking the last 8 games, playoffs included, we scored more points fourth quarter on than we did in quarters 1 through 3. That wasn't the case the first half of the season. So we got to figure out why we started the second half of the season slow on offense. There's a big mission of mine. We don't want to put ourselves behind the 8 ball each and every week. That's not a formula for sustained success. He goes on to say this. We're better than that. We have too much talent on our offensive side of the ball for us to start off slow and dig ourselves into holes like that. We're going to find out what that is. A lot of times when you find areas to improve on, you draw attention to it. That stuff gets corrected. Guys take a lot of pride in it. And hopefully they do, right? We know that the Bears improved last season. And statistically, we had one of the best offenses in the league last year, right? That's what the results will tell you. But in watching the game and people who don't just look at the box score at the end of the games, you'll know that the Bears did put themselves in behind the 8 ball a lot, and they put themselves in the hole a lot. And so, some of that is offense, some of that's defense, of course, right? But the offense has to put up more points. The Bears probably could have had it, 13, maybe even 14 wins last season had they just played solidly and more consistent. The way that we showed up in fourth quarter and overtime was great. It was special. It was part of what made the season extremely special for the Chicago Bears. But again, like I talked about with the defensive side of the ball, you have to have more functionality, right? Yes, the Bears defense was takeaways. Now, Ben Johnson talked about, Al Harris keeping the takeaway moniker, but also how they're trying to add aggressiveness, speeds, violence, right? And be a more functional defense. The same needs to happen for the offense. The offense just has to be more consistent. There was something that we did and that we realized in the fourth quarters and comebacks every single time in the second half of the season. We need to be more consistent with that. And that's just the reality of it, right? Like, you can't always rely on comebacks because eventually that magic's going to run out. And like I said at the opening of the show, there are a lot of Bears fans that looked at that and said, hey, listen, I don't believe in this because of X. And I can't really knock them for that. Now, for what it's worth, the Bears were, 6th last year in yards per game, which is really good. You want to see that from your offense, especially when you're in a second-year quarterback, the first year of playing with a real head coach in Ben Johnson, right? So, and we were 6th also in total yards, 6th or 7th in total yards. So, like, the Bears had things that absolutely worked out for them. There's just no doubt about that. We were the top 10 of points per game scored as well, right? So there are things that definitely will work. If you could eliminate just the fourth quarter comeback nature, still have the ability to do that when you want it, right? Like, that's a good thing is that Caleb Williams has shown that he does have that ice in the veins in the fourth quarter. He's shown that he as can step up when a game's close and you need a drive in the fourth quarter to seal a victory. He's shown that you can do that. Now that the goal should be in 2026 is not to have to rely on that so much. That's a tool that's in your toolbox. It's something that you can trust and that you know your team is capable of, and that's good because that's more than you can say about some teams is that they don't have the ability to make that late game push, right? We've seen that from Caleb in the offense. Now we need to be a more functional offense. We need to be more consistent throughout the totality of the 4 quarters. I tell you what, if the Bears kept up that mindset of what they had in the fourth quarter for a full 4 quarters, we may have been the best offense in the league, right? So look at the Bears. They scored 441 points last year. The number 1 team as far as points scored was the Los Angeles Rams with 518 points scored. So again, the Bears aren't that far off if they just have to be more consistent. The completion percentage for Caleb Williams, the challenge that's there for Ben Johnson, eliminating some of those drops, which we talked about from the wide receivers, all that helps you get there. Ben Johnson said in the episode yesterday, the quote that we read in the episode yesterday, that he feels they left 30, 40 plays out there, right? Like, so that's opportunities that you look at that and you're like, all right, bet. Like, if you start getting those together, that helps as well, right? So it's just that evolution and taking that next step. And that's why I do love Ben Johnson here as a head coach. Ben Johnson, again, saying you can't build off what you did before, right? But also not allowing the little bit of success that the Bears had last year make you think that you're further than what you are. Ben Johnson has a very good grasp, it seems like, on where the Bears still drastically need to improve as a team, where the Bears still have drastic shortcomings as a team, and how they need to get there. And that's what you want to hear from your head coach. You want to hear, hey, I recognize this. We did this last year. Let's keep these parts of it. Let's add these parts to what we can do. You do that consistently, and we'll see how this Bears offense looks last year, because there's a chance that the Bears offense, which is already one of the best offenses in the league, can be even higher up on that tier list and be truly elite if you just are more consistent. You eliminate those drops. You eliminate the over and under throws, the missed opportunities in the passing game. The running game was very solid. I think we got off to a slow start with the running game as well. Now we kind of have that established on that 1-2 punch with Kyle Monangai, DeAndre Swift. I do think the Bears are going to find a way to add some more depth there. It may end up being Deion Hankins as well, but we'll see what we have there. It's going to be opportunities for guys here in Chicago. Let's see if this offense can make the step up from where they were last year, where they were a fun, innovative, and a top 10 offense, to truly be an elite offense heading into 2026. Let me know what you guys think on that down below. But we've talked about the Bears and what they need to make changes with defensively. Well, there's now started being rumors and rumblings if the Chicago Bears should trade for Dexter Lawrence. Adam Schefter initially reported that the New York Giants defensive tackle Dexter Lawrence has asked for a trade and will not be participating in the offseason program at all for the New York Giants this season. And so, of course, we all know the New York Giants do not have to trade Dexter Lawrence just because he asked for a trade, right? And I want to be clear on that one. But ESPN's Jordan Renan has said that the reported return will be in the range of a first or early second round pick to get Dexter Lawrence in the building. Now, the question becomes about, should the Bears do that? Dexter Lawrence had a down season last year in 2025, only a half a sack, but he did earn the 11th best overall grade amongst defensive tackles per Football Focus. Not that that's the end-all, be-all, right? And the 6th best pass rushing grade at that position as well, at 84.5. So take for that what you will, that Dexter Lawrence did not get the sack number, but the production, the pressure rate, all that type of stuff is really good for there. Now, while it's expected that multiple teams are going to be interested in Dexter Lawrence and make that call, should the Chicago Bears make that? Now, The Athletic reported that the Bears could get Dexter Lawrence for a 2026 second-round pick, one of our picks this year, and maybe a 2026 fourth-round pick. Here's the thing. Because we do have an extra second-round pick, I guess it makes sense in that one. It's number 60th overall, right? So there you go on that one. The fourth round pick would be number 129 overall. But, he did say this one. To make a move for Lawrence, who wants a deal, the Bears would have to restructure and terminate multiple contracts to free up space. They have less than $1 million in cap space, but the front office can manipulate the books to bolster a below-average defensive interior. So the question then becomes about, should the Chicago Bears make that move? When you look at Dexter Lawrence, again, we talked about it, only half a sack last year. He did have an interception, though, which is crazy enough. He's 28 years old, 6'4", 340 pounds. This is a guy that over his career since being in the league in 2019, so we got 7 years, has 30.5 sacks in those 7 years, right? So, not a bad number. The season before last, he had 9 sacks. The season before that, 4.5. The season before that, 7.5. As I've told you guys before, with defensive tackles, it's not always about having the highest sack number. That just isn't always how defensive tackles are able to impact the game. But I know that's something that people are going to look at. He also has 5 fumbles forced over his career also, which we know that the Bears are going to try to coach to that, to kind of push that ball out when you can. I'm of a couple of minds when it comes to Dexter Lawrence, right? Like 28, so he's not like over the hill or anything. He's not over 30, so you're not trading a second round pick for a player over 30. But then you have to also gauge it by what's available at the second round in the draft, right? Like what are some, or even if in the first round, if that's a better use of your assets. And that what it comes down to, like the money aspect is always going to be a big part for the Chicago Bears, because we are strapped for cash this season, and we are preparing for Caleb Williams' extension, Darnell Wright's extension. We're preparing for those things. Dexter Lawrence has a cap hit of $26 million. $26 million. So this isn't as simple as just restructuring a contract or two to be able to create space for that. Keep in mind, you still need the space for your draft picks to sign those guys. And that's going to be roughly 10 to 11 million in what you have. So you have Dexter Lawrence, who has 2 years remaining on his contract this year and 2027. Technically, I guess you could trade for him and try to restructure his contract, maybe add another year onto that deal to kind of spread that out, give him another year of stability, convert some stuff to signing bonus, whatever you want to do. You have that option to do that. It's just, I wouldn't mind the aggressive move from Ryan Poles. I just worry about what that means for who we'd either have to cut or the restructuring, or again, combination of also restructuring Dexter Lawrence's contract, but also what that means for the future of the Chicago Bears. Now, we do know that next year is slated to have around 40-ish million in cap space, but if you add on a contract that's then going to be next season is also going to be 26 in 2027, a 26 million cap hit again, unless you restructure, then that also cuts into your cap space next year, where you need to extend Darnell Wright. You need to extend Caleb Williams at minimum. We don't know any other players that could show up. So it's that. And it's again, that tight needle that Ryan Poles and any body running a team has to do when you think about the now and the future. I know that a lot of Chicago Bears fans wanted the splash move this offseason, and it didn't happen. The Max Crosby, the Trey Hendricksons, those moves didn't happen. So then you turn around and look at the Chicago Bears. Now you're saying that you want them to make a splash move with a trade. I'm almost more willing for the Chicago Bears to go through the draft process, see what they get in the draft process, and rock it out that way. And then if they need to make a move at the trade deadline, then make an aggressive move. I'm almost more ready to see that for the Chicago Bears than them try to go all in on something right now, because best believe this is an all-in trade. And from what we've heard about from Ryan Poles directly, not even saying me and my punditry on this, is that Ryan Poles also is thinking about this isn't the right time to make an all-in move right now. It seems like that's kind of where everybody with this franchise is all aligned at. This is not the time to make an all-in move, and thus you're seeing more patience from the Chicago Bears. You're seeing more deliberateness from the Chicago Bears. You're going to see a very deliberate draft from the Chicago Bears, and I'm almost willing to do that. Now, again, this is not a knock on Dexter Lawrence and his talent. He's an immensely talented player who has done a lot over his career. And like I said, even with that sack number not being there last year, which I know the comments are going to be flooded with, just reading the thumbnail and the title of this video, they're going to be there without really kind of digging into more of the numbers. But, even that, it's still a concern there, right? You went from 9 to only a half a sack. That's going to be a concern for anyone seeing a drop-off in production at that much for a player that's almost about to be on the other side of 30, right? So all those things have to factor in. And I'm glad that I'm not the person who has to make that decision, because that comes down to Ryan Poles and the decision that he has to make there. And I guess we'll see. I guess we shall see what's going to happen there. But you guys can let me know how you feel on that. Should the Chicago Bears pursue a trade for Dexter Lawrence? Would you be all in on a trade like that? Or do you think the Chicago Bears should stay the course, go through the draft, build through that, evaluate that first, and then you could start seeing maybe at the trade deadline leading into that if you want to make a big acquisition like you did with Montez Sweat or something like that? Let me know what you guys think on that down below. You still got the contracts of Grady Jarrett, Dayo Odeyingbo as well on this team that are both those guys are eating so much money, and it's unfortunate, right? Like, that's just where the Bears have put themselves with their cap situation. But, brighter days ahead, hopefully, and hopefully the Bears can figure something out to get kind of out of that as it stands. Grady Jarrett, $18 million cap hit. Dayo Odeyingbo, a $20 million cap hit. You don't have those guys whose necessarily production wasn't the best. You probably would have had a big splash offseason this year. But, woulda, coulda, shoulda. Hindsight is always 2020. So, it is what it is when it comes down to that one. But let me know what you guys think. Dexter Lawrence, would you make that move? I want to hear from you guys on that one in the comment section. And again, make it more than just about the sack total. Come on, y'all. I have some faith in y'all, right? Let me know that. But with that said, we talked about focusing on the draft, right? And we talked about what that means for the Chicago Bears. Now, somebody who we've talked about a little bit here as being a potential target for the Chicago Bears in Kaden McDonald has just been labeled as the best fit for the Chicago Bears and the best long-term pairing for Javon Dexter. Now, I know that, there's a lot of Bears fans that have a lot of doubts and concerns around Javon Dexter and where his future is going to be at with the Chicago Bears team. I'm not going to act like that's not there and people aren't asking the question there. I'm not going to I do think that sometimes Bears fans, we've gotten a little spoiled about some of the production we've seen from Bears at the defensive tackle position. And the defensive tackle position always isn't about having the most sack numbers, right? But Javon Dexter does have limitations in the run game and stuff like that. But that is where Kaden McDonald can hopefully help. Now, this comes from the Athletic Nick Baumgardner, who said this. He's a versatile 6'3", 300-pound run stuffer with the ability to chase and find the ball outside the square. McDonald has better long-term pass rush potential than Williams and could be a legitimate 3-down, 3-tech because of his ability to slide over the nose when the moment requires. And long-term duo of McDonald and Javon Dexter Sr. in the Windy City sounds like a successful one. So, like a lot of the conversation has been made about this, is that where the Bears go safety, where they go defensive line. I've been trying to prepare you guys for the thought process and the reality that the Bears very well may not go defensive line in the first round. We've kind of heard some of that from Ryan Poles, kind of alluding to that, but it's more about that they're going to let the draft board, the way that it falls, they're going to be prepared for it a multitude of ways, right? Kaden McDonald offers a lot. It's the synergy between Javon Dexter and Kaden McDonald potentially on paper. And like I've told you guys before, even though all 3 of his sacks came last year, this is a guy that I think when you look at what he did in college and you watch the tape, you see that there's a lot more, kind of like what we just talked about with Dexter Lawrence, is that there's a lot more potential in the pass rush to still put pressure and to maybe even get more sacks. But you're looking at your defensive tackles, pressure rate is kind of the more thing there. Kaden McDonald has that ability. And so with the draft getting closer and closer, listen, y'all, we're 2 weeks away from the NFL draft. I can't tell y'all enough how excited I am and ready to get to this draft. But 2 weeks away from the NFL draft, is Kaden McDonald the best fit for the Chicago Bears? And should he be where the Bears go at number 25? That's the question there. He's a popular pick at number 25. You look at Grady Jarrett, Javon Dexter, Neville Gallimore, James Litch, Katavius Street. Like, you're trying to add to that, and we all know that, right? But we'll see what happens there. McDonald has tremendous upside coming to the Chicago Bears. What's up, son? He has tremendous upside at the potential of coming to the Chicago Bears. And I don't think anybody should be mad if the Bears were to draft Kaden McDonald at all. And, they have to find their safety in other places if that's what they decide to do. And we'll see if the Bears, but it's just interesting noting this closer. And as we get closer to the draft, you start paying attention and keep hearing the same names, right? And Kaden McDonald is a name that continually pops up for the Chicago Bears. And we'll see if that be the move that the Bears end up making. Last time before we get out of here is what everybody's asking about. I can't tell you guys enough how much anybody who knows that I'm a Bears fan, until you ask me how you feel about the Bears moving to Indiana. Oh, the Indiana Bears, you guys are losing the Bears, all that type of stuff, right? But Adam Schefter shared some light on what's going on with the Bears, talking about this, right? 2 proposed sites in Chicago are not considered feasible per sources. Next to Soldier Field for political reasons, and the land known as Michael Reese was evaluated and rejected by the NFL and the Bears. If Illinois doesn't pass legislation for Arlington Heights soon, sources believe that the Bears are likely Indiana bound. That comes from Adam Schefter. So it seems like the Bears are set to make a decision pretty soon on their new site in the next few weeks, according to Adam Schefter, as a matter of fact. So we'll see, right? Kevin Warren did talk about it last week where he says the Bears want to wrap up the business side of that this summer because they are targeting a 2030 opening date for the stadium, which is only 4 years from now. So when you look at the amount and the new stadium and what the Bears are trying to do with that, of course, if it's Indiana, they're not going to have that kind of epicenter, that community that they wanted to build of hotels and restaurants around that. Maybe that goes long term there, but they will have opportunity now to still get their new stadium, which is the focus. I still think Kevin Warren is doing a little posturing here, trying to put a little pressure on Illinois. But the fact of the matter remains, if Illinois keeps dragging their feet, they won't have the Chicago Bears in the state of Illinois. That's just the reality of it. And so, Indiana put a hell of an offer together. They passed what they needed to pass relatively quickly to get things approved for the Chicago Bears. It just seems like the Bears want that same thing from their home state in Illinois. And do they get that? We'll see. Because I tell you what, if they build that new stadium in Indiana and Indiana keeps opening the bag, the Bears are probably never coming back to Illinois. That's just the reality of it, man. And so they wouldn't be the only NFL team to not play in the state that they represent, right? But it would be very weird not to have it. But I think a lot of people are starting to come to the real terms and the reality that the Chicago Bears may not be in Chicago. And it seems like either way, they're not going to be in the city of Chicago, but they may not be in Illinois as a whole. And I don't know what that does to the fandom. I really don't know what that does, but we shall see. I just wanted to provide that update since that update came out. You guys can let me know how you feel on that down below. But that's going to do it for today's episode. Let me know how you guys feel on things, man. How do you think about the Bears offense and the issues with that? Can Ben Johnson get that corrected? And can the Bears truly be elite? What do you think about Dexter Lawrence? What do you think about Kaden McDonald? What should the Bears do in the draft? What should they do with a trade? So they still try to make a big splash trade? Let me know that down below. Make sure you guys like the video, subscribe to the channel as well. You can follow us at Shy Bear Central on every social media platform. You send us any feedback, questions, comments, concerns. ChicagoBearCentral@gmail.com. And lastly, if you want to leave a text message and our voicemail for the mailbag, the number to do so, 773-242-9336. We are the #1 spot for everything Chicago Bears related, but that is thanks to you, lovely and beautiful people. And like I like to end every episode on, Chi-Town up, but Bear down. Love you guys. Peace, y'all.
This has been a presentation of the Break Media.